Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Harold Wayne Abbott, George Wood Alexander, Claiborne Willis Ashby Jr., James Terrence Bateman, Francis Scott Bechtold, James William Bell, Ronald John Benke III, David Arnold Bernheisel, Robert Lee Blackfox, Larry Paul Blackman, David Peter Brown, Carl Eugene Brown, Chris Frederick Brunn, Richard Dean Buckles, George Whitney Carpenter, Len E. Carr, Richard Neal Christie II, Michael Allen Clute, Chester Leroy Coons, Charles Linwood Cordell, Roger Lynn Kuick, Michael Patrick Damon, Frank Arthur Dawson, Luis de la Torre, Christopher George Delgado, Leroy Fred Delgado Jr., Robert Cyril Donald, Paul Nicholas Donato, William Lloyd Draper, Jack Lee Dry, Patrick James Dugan, Roger Lynn Elkins, David Ward Fravel, Thomas Hall Frazier, James Thomas Gordon, James Bernard L. Gordon Jr., Gary Bruce Gorton, Terrence Collinson Graves, Roscoe Conklin Gray Jr., Donald Albee Green, Bruce Gregory Green, Henry Gregory, Craig Ward Haynes, Blake Henry Halfman, Robert James Hall, Timothy Vaughn Harper, Ronald David Hart, Glenn Miller Hayden, Charles Paul Headley, Henry F. Henderson III, Ernest Victor Hensel Jr., William R. Higginbotham, Harold Herbert Hladdick, John David Hodge, Frank Lee Hogue, Joseph Paul Honan, James Earl Honeycutt, Robert Harry Irwin, Robert Allen Jackson, Samuel James Jr., Bobby Jean Johnson, Dennis James Kane, Dickie Gale Keeler, George Matthew Kinley,
Thomas Walter Cloran, James Stephen Kravitz, Paul Dennis Krieger, Donald Lee Kuyeva, Richard Marvin Kulovic, William E. Leatherwood, Jr., Robert Edward Lee, John Frederick Lewis, Kenneth George Liebhaber, Juan Antonio Lopez Colon, Hugh Allen Love, Carl Cecil Lowry, Dennis J. Lulofs, Weldon George Lynn, William Thomas Mangum, Jr., Herbert Lynn Marsh, James Edward Martin, Thomas Vincent Maybury, Raymond Mays, Cornelius A. McCafferty, Jr., Ronald Lanier McElroy, Sylvester War McFarland, Aloysius Paul McGonigal, Larry Robert McKinney, Dale Stephen McWright, Ronald Lee Means, Thomas Otis Meek, James Frederick Meyer, Jr., George Grover Mitchell, John Lewis Mitchell, Eamon Franklin Moore, Jr., Roger Hugh Mullins, William Wallace Newton, Louis Rollerson Noble, Don Lee Pappas, Richard Warren Pershing, Jesse Earl Peterson, Roy Edward Pitts, Charles Aubrey Pulliam, Kenneth Wayne Radomski, Douglas Cooper Reyes, Thomas Everett Rice, Arlindell Richardson, Reginald Joseph Rodriguez, John Francis Sompt, Thomas Woodrow Sander, Samuel John Santangelo, Charles Earl Schoolcraft,
Lee Vern Silver, Gary Ray Smith, Robert Lindo Smith, James Dale Snyder, Andre Sorkini, Kenneth Earl Stetson, Richard Irwin Studier, Jerry Lee Taylor, Wilton Herman Thomas, Curtis Frank Thurman, Edmund Ronald Vedro, John Delane Volner, David Howard Warner, Sheridan J. Watkins, Russell William Windler, Wilburn Edward Wester, David Elga Whitten, Howard K. Wilhite Jr., Theodore Alfred Williams, Maurice Theron Williams, James Charles Wan, Mark Hillary Zeldas, Jack Allen Zotzma,